of our 1.4?
No. Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. 1.4 is actually excluding this amount because what we are doing right now is normally we take $859,000 from tax levy to fund roads project. We're actually transferring $250 of that $859,000 to bridge and culvert reserve, simply because we are in a desperate state right now.
Understood. Could you take me back to the 1.4 and some earlier thoughts that we had this morning? It's going to be transferred into an overall or a general reserve, or is it going to be broken down into specific reserves immediately, shall I say?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if you go to page 62 of this budget package, you will see that 1.4% is equivalent to $135,000, and that $135,000 is being allocated to 5 reserves right now: fire vehicle and equipment reserve, road vehicle and equipment reserve, parks and recreation vehicle and equipment reserve, IT reserve, and road facility reserve. What we need to transfer to to bridge and culvert reserve is significantly higher than that $135,000. So what we are doing right now, with that 1.4%, we're concentrating on fire vehicle and equipment reserve so that gets to a surplus position. Right now it's in a deficit position, but reducing the transfer that we do from tax to roads project by $250 so that it can be transferred to bridge and culvert reserve without impacting tax.
Thanks, Nazareth. I know you've told me that before, but thanks again today. Any questions, John?
Yes, Nazareth, just to be more clear, excuse me. I'm having difficulty in getting it across my mind here with bridge and culvert, or whatever you want to call it, bridge and guardrails, whatever it is. I'd like to see that separated out. I'd like to see a bridge on its own.
A reserve?
And a reserve, yes, because we have significant costs coming up here in the near future. And to combine them both together is very confusing, because if all of a sudden we have a huge, damage done to whatever, we turn around and we have to use all that reserve up, and then you have nothing for bridges again. So if it's separated out, you have bridges just totally on its own, and your culverts and whatever else, your guardrails, whatever it may be, separate from there. I think that's the way I would like to see it.
So can I clarify just a little bit? Some culverts that are greater than 3 meters are still defined as I'll call it maybe a structure.
Mm-hmm.
So if we separate bridge and culvert reserve just to a bridge and just to a culvert, maybe we should just call it a structures reserve, because we do lots of culvert maintenance in our operating budget. Any of our road reconstruction, we include in our budgets to purchase culverts through our operating budget. This bridge and culvert reserve is anything that is anything more than 3 meters in diameter. So we do have areas in the township that are multi-plates that are culverts, but they're 3 meters in diameter, if that makes any sense. So instead,
and if I might add, and quite occasionally they're replacing a concrete structure. Crossing Road, for example, in years past was a concrete structure, and it was replaced with a large
pre-engineered concrete
culvert. But it served the same function.
And yeah, or structures reserve, right? Because if you go underneath the Ontario Structures Investigation Manual, that's what they deem. So maybe we just rename it as structures reserve. So then if anybody asks, it's 3 meters and bigger.
That would help.
Okay.
Yeah, it helped. Yes, it's a good education to have. Yes, because when I think of bridge, I think of a cement structure, same as like the Bow Bridge there in Bewdley, but that's got to be replaced. That's what I look as a bridge. So if you, yeah, now you've clarified it. That's good. Okay.
Okay, I guess that's kind of an acronym thing that we're working on there again.
BCR.
Mark, please.
Just a question, Nezra, maybe you can answer this. The Garland Road one, why does that fall under development charge? Is there, I've been trying to.
So Garland Road through DC's, it's at anything new or an improvement. So currently right now, Garland Road is a gravel road. With the 3 new houses on with recent severances, that's why we can fund or use some of the DCs to fund that or to improve the surface of the road, which is surface treatment.
There's quite a number of new houses on Garland Road in the last few years, so. Understandable. Any further questions at this point in time? Nezra, back to you, please.
If I can request everyone to move to page 162, and I'll request Trevor Clapperton, our manager of Parks and Facilities, to help me with this. Parks and Facilities Department, they are requesting a capital budget of $120,000 for 3 projects: Baltimore Ball diamond fencing, pickup truck, and dump box, and Old Camborne School exterior paint to be funded from reserve. And I'll pass the floor to Trevor to speak to it.
Thank you, Nazrat. So the first one, the Baltimore Ball diamond fencing. 2 of the 4 ball diamonds at the Baltimore Ballpark require outfield fencing. This one is for diamond number 2. It basically, the current fencing there is just a residential fencing that the pipes are coming apart on and the fence is getting stretched out. I think it's been there, I'm not sure how many years, a lot, but it is due for replacement. We do have 5 regular ball leagues that play there during the weekend on weekends, plus tournament play. So it is a safety concern and needs to be updated. The second project is the pickup truck and dump box. Currently, we have arrangements with Public Works that the truck that's located at the Bewdley Arena gets swapped out in the summer and the winter. The winter, we get a truck with a plow on it. And then in the spring, we swap it out with one of the 1-ton trucks that's used so we can clean weeds out of the Harwood Beach, pick up garbage, and it also tows a trailer with the lawnmower on it. So the want here is to go to a standalone Parks pickup truck with a small insert dump box in the back so that we can still use it for cleaning weeds out of the beach, but it's better for pulling a trailer with the lawnmower on it. There's safety concerns with the students that use that pickup truck, and you're unable to see the trailer behind the 1-ton dump truck. That way the Parks Department would be able to keep that in its fleet year round, and we would no longer be swapping back and forth with Public Works. And then the third one is the Old Camborne Schoolhouse exterior painting. It is starting to peel and just due to be painted, the longer we leave this off, the more work is going to be involved in painting it. So just trying to keep that building up to date. Questions? Comments?
Be careful on your choice of paint colors. That is a designated structure.
Yes, I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
Fuchsia has always been my favorite.
I guess that's it. Please, Nezra.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, General Gov is requesting for 2 projects for $50,000. These are IT hardware replacement and server replacement. And these projects are critical for us to keep our IT infrastructure current, reliable, and also in good working condition. This will reduce cybersecurity risk and reduce maintenance costs and increase efficiencies. Any question? If not,
As I've questioned many times when we talk about IT, I'll start off by saying, I know nothing. But I do ask the question, are we positioned adequately for cybersecurity? And do we have someone that kind of keeps an eye on those potential negatives that we might be looking at? A dollar value there for a future budget. And I just take every opportunity I can to remind people of that because of my fear. So just a comment. Thanks, Nezra. John,
I have the same fears as well. I know our equipment gets basically used up and old and very quickly. I'll ask this question. Are we insured adequately in case we do get breached? That's the question I have, because I'll come to my reasoning. Port Hull Police Service had their system breached, and it cost them a little over $350,000 because they didn't have it insured properly. So it was costing over $350,000 to have it reworked and brought back to where it should be.
To you, Mr. Mayor, we are taking all the steps required in order to ensure that we're protected.
Mark,
It's more of a topic you discuss in camera than out of in camera.
I think when we're at the general level that we're okay, but
We're getting,
understood.
we're getting to those
Understood.
yeah.
To you, Mr. Mayor, if there's no question, I'd like to move to the library budget.
Please do.
Yes. In terms of the library budget, we are requesting $2,600 to be transferred for new collection to be funded from DC. When we presented the DC study to council and council approved it, it was allocated that we will be transferring $2,600 from DC to libraries to fund libraries' new collection. And right now, DC library balance is approximately $100,000. So we do have sufficient fund that we have collected for this transfer. Through you, Mr. Mayor. $2,600 each year. Through you, Mr. Mayor, if council wants us to increase it, absolutely we can. We do have higher. So as I've said, DC balance right now for library is approximately $100,000. So we have collected that fund.
Larry,
So that's specific about what it can be used for is only for the purchase of new material, right? Not equipment or anything like that, right?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's absolutely correct. New
It cannot
collection.
go towards programming and stuff, right?
No, it cannot.
That's too bad.
Collection can mean books, CDs and all, right? They can use the fund to purchase new collection items.
So if they do carry on and do, let's say, put a library in Cold Springs, for instance, they could stock it with new library books and content and, media, right?
That's
Not
can-
furniture, but just,
To you, Mr. Mayor,
Okay, so
they
that's all-
should
and-
not use this fund for furniture.
so it's $2,600 now, but in the future, it could be more if we decided to.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Is there any question on 2024 budget? If not, we have fire. So if I can take everyone to page 208. 208 and 209 includes fire equipment and vehicle forecast. And as you can see, that we're projecting that we are going to be able to increase the contribution by $100,000. And by the end of 2027, we will get to $560,000, which is the optimal contribution amount for fire vehicle and equipment reserve. And if we continue to do the transfer for a 560, then by the end of 2034, they will have a surplus of approximately $1.3 million. Keep in mind the numbers sound huge, but a pumper tanker can eat up the entire amount, right? So yes, it isn't a huge amount. However, one expenditure can take that whole amount. Any question? If not, we can move to the roads vehicle and equipment reserve, forecast, and that's on page 211 and 212. Sorry, 211 to 213. Does anyone have any question on this one? Three, Mr. Mayor, should I move on?
Go ahead, John.
Mayor Jim, I just want to go back here to the fire forecast.
What page are you on, John?
Back, excuse me, 208. So we have reserves that we're gonna put away. And there's an ask for 100,000 from the fire service, 26,000 and 50,000, which makes 176,500. That's coming from that reserve,
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
their own reserve.
Their fire vehicle and equipment reserve will be funding this expense.
Okay, then the next year, the 90 and the 125 and et cetera goes to 353. Does that come out of their vehicle reserve is then at almost extinct? So therefore it comes out of what reserve then?
Unfortunately, it's going to come out from our bank and they have to pay us back in the future. And that's why you see deficit and then surplus based on the contribution that we're going to be receiving. And that's why it's so critical for us to ensure that the reserve is in a surplus position, that way we're not borrowing money from our bank.
That's correct. That's what I'm looking at. I don't like being negative.
Unfortunately, that's why of that 1.4% that we are requesting to increase this year, and you can see of that $135,000, we are transferring $100,000 to fire vehicle and equipment reserve because of the dear state of that reserve. The good news is, eventually we are going to be in a surplus position. But we have to take the step
That's a
now.
long time down the road.
No, we are actually going to be in a surplus position by 2027.
Oh, okay, well, to me, that's a long way down the road, but anyways, that's, yeah.
And we need to learn that we're not just using money from a reserve because we have it. It
No,
needs to be for a major purchase that is critical.
through you, Mr. Mayor, I will never withdraw $1 from the reserve without council's approval.
Okay,
That's,
thank you.
that's appreciated, but that's twice my limit that I would want to see happen.
Okay, thank you.
Any question on the roads, vehicle and equipment forecast?
When's our break-even point on our goal of reserve building for roads, Nazrat?
We're actually in good shape. Right now, we have a surplus of 550. We're transferring, I think, additional $15,000 each year. Once we get to the optimal amount, we are going to be, by the end of 2034, we are going to be in a surplus position of 933. So in order for us to be in a surplus position of 933, we need to increase our transfer, get to an optimal amount, and then keep it flatline. That's right. If there's no question on that, I can move to page 2.
I think John's got a question.
John,
Nazrat.
forgive me.
I keep picking on, sorry, but it's kind of hard to very close. I look at the amount of equipment the public works has figured out. I think to myself, well, I saw the amount of full-time employees, part-time employees, et cetera, and I go, well, there's too much equipment here for what we have for personnel to drive and whatever. I know it's nice to have some equipment on hand and whatever else, but to turn around and say, okay, we got how many dump trucks here? We got 1, 2, 3,
9.
4. Yeah, and then how many 3/4 GMC trucks do we have? And then how many 1-ton trucks do we have? And how many half-ton trucks do we have? We seem to have an awful supply of vehicles here for for what we have for personnel when they're out driving dump trucks and they're out driving backhoes and loaders and brushers and whatever else. Is there any way to do an analysis? Whether we need all this equipment or not, and what it would cost to lease it instead of purchasing? Would it be feasible to do that? That's the question I have, because I look at this, I think it's excuse me, it's one of the largest budgets we have. And yet we seem to have all this equipment. We don't have enough personnel to drive it. And that's no slight against you, Lucas. But the fact is we don't have the personnel to drive all this stuff. But we have to start looking at our costs and what we're doing in the near future here. Do we replace it? Do we lease it? What are you going to do with this equipment? We have to have some kind of a study done in Public Works, like top to bottom, inside and out. We have a fire master plan. We got a water plan. We got a Parks and Recreation plan. We have no plan for Public Works. We have, like, down the road, the future. You told us a few things here that you have in mind that you'd like to get done, but why wasn't it done years ago? Through a plan, through a business plan.
That what I hear is the request for information, which is not available to be forthcoming today.
Right.
There's no way it could be. And what I'm thinking, and maybe adding more to this than I should, but what I'm thinking is you're really asking for a report subsequent to budget, probably.
A lot of work, but
Yeah, I mean, it's not
yeah, too much work.
possible to get it done.
No,
So if I'm correct in that thought, am I also thinking right that you're gonna make a motion to defer that to staff for consideration for a future report?
I reflect back on a document here from a report back in 2018 when Lucas was not here. But this report basically says the consultants recommend a reliable data, long-term planning and maintenance life cycle program for Public Works. And that's the PSD report. And this came out in 2018 from a consulting firm that came down here and was doing the infrastructure program for better jobs, et cetera. And they were also doing the software report for the state of maturity, it's called. And it was to do with asset management. And this was their recommendations from the Public Works at that time. And it seems that report and this report that I have in my hand, some issues were taken to heart and they were looked at and relied on. Other issues in here were totally neglected. So what I'd like to do is bring forward a motion that we refer back to staff to come forward with some kind of a plan for Public Works. Tell us, and I'll use the brusher example. That seems to be a hot topic issue with the public right now, everybody. But I'll use the brusher as an example. But there should be a plan in place to say that we're going to do these roads this spring, we're going to do this roads this summer, we're going to do this roads this fall. So therefore the plan's in place and we'll know exactly where this brusher is going to be up and down the roads. We should know that we have 3 operators. We should know that they're working, what I'll refer to as 24/7 and not sporadically whenever the principal driver is either off on holidays or not around. These are things that we have to know and have to focus in on to say, is this equipment valuable enough to be on the road? And is it going to be responsible enough to be used in the proper manner with a business plan?
The ask or potential motion is very large indeed.
It is very large.
And obviously not going to be done from a budget timeframe. There's no doubt about
No, it
that.
won't be.
Would you? I don't mean to lead you, John, or create a motion, but I mean, I don't know anything other than to ask. Would you be supportive of a motion sending it to staff for consideration for almost like a scope of work on the report itself? To
Yeah.
see if it's inclusive enough or if it's too onerous or whatever, like get staff's understanding and suggestion of what we ourselves, or in particular you yourself might be asking for. Would that be reasonable for me
Yes.
to go that way?
Yeah, it would be, yes.
Okay, so we're off topic of the budget a little bit, but I think that's okay, isn't it, Daphne?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so staff generally could be directed to prepare a report identifying a potential operational plan for Public Works. However, I don't know if you want to be more specific and have the CAO work with the manager of Public Works or clarify something, so
Yes, that's.
that sounded
yeah.
CAO and
Working association, right?
Yeah.
I'm not considering a consultant.
I would suggest you probably have, you come back with some, information. A consultation with council and public works coordinators. Working with Lucas to, on scope of what those meetings are asked to identify, whether it's capital, whether it's operational, whether it's, improvements, process improvements. Those sorts of things, we can come back with, analysis of what could be involved in that. Whether it's a larger study or whether it's a working group within Public Works, we come back with some options for council.
Okay, we don't have a motion on the floor that I know of, so
Yeah, I mean,
John, you led this off, so you'd like to make it, I'm sure.
I make that motion, yes.
Okay, and we'll get a seconder to the motion and we'll just have it read again after that to make sure that we're heading in the right direction. So do we have a motion? Do we have a seconder to the motion? Okay, so allowing a little opportunity for more questions and answers here. And Mark, you have a question or comment?
I'm just very concerned about, I mean, we've sent this back to Lucas, I know a number of times, and staff before him and so forth, and dealing with the trucks and the use of the trucks and whether we use this equipment or don't use the equipment. And every time it's come back that it's all needed. And some of it's, you know, I'm just a little worried that it's getting, I don't want to put the onus on our staff, and I'm a little worried that we're doing that. We're starting to micromanage our staff a little bit. I understand John's point that we have a lot of money tied up here, but I'm also a little worried that I don't want to frustrate our staff to the point where our staff are not going to like to even work here because we're going down this same type of questioning. I just worry about that. I'm just, staff are very hard to replace, especially in the roads department. And I just don't want to see us micromanage our staff so much that they start looking elsewhere.
I think the intent here is to get information in relationship to our equipment, which is only a sound idea, really. And at this point in time, the motion is to send it to staff to see what they might, not necessarily to do the report, but to provide options on what the report might include, if I'm remembering the motion correctly. So it's certainly an early stage of seeking information. I guess any other questions or comments? We do have a motion. We do have a second. Do we want the motion read again just for clarity? Probably wouldn't do any harm. Daphne, could you help us with that?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, just to be clear, is the report or the options, is that to be presented to Public Works coordinators or back to council?
Both.
That the CAO be directed to prepare for Public Works coordinators and council a report identifying the potential analysis of an operational plan for the Public Works Department.
That read all right to
Yes,
everybody?
yeah. Or
Would you like?
organizational review, whatever you want to call it. If you go for costing, then you gotta go for somebody outside the agency, outside outside. the
Let's
municipality.
leave that off right now. Let's
Yeah, we'll
just
keep it off the table.
fine tune what we might be asking for. And the only part that I wasn't sure was there was CAO in association with appropriate staff. Maybe that's an automatic. Okay. Bruce?
The overall operations of the, we're looking at everything. Whatever they come up with.
Well, we'll be able to fine tune that when the report comes back. I mean, it certainly starts off with equipment. There's no doubt about that.
Maybe we should include Arthur and the HR in there as well, if it's gonna involve personnel. HR should be involved as well.
Well, I think that's, for me, that's the second phase of
Okay.
this. You sort of get a high level overview of what the options are.
You say that it's a master plan you're looking for? It's a plan. Parks and Rec plan?
Larry, we gotta, even in the generalized conversation, we gotta make sure we use our mics.
So I was just asking, is this similar to a master plan that we have for the fire department or a master plan for the Parks Department? I mean, I don't know, I guess the question is there currently a public works master plan that's been done by a consultant in the past? Because I don't know that myself.
Anyway, that's what we're gonna find out when we get this first
I guess
high
that's what
level
it is.
staff report coming back to us.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, just for clarity, do we need the motion again or are we good? We're good? Okay, all those in favor of the motion? It's carried. I should ask those opposed. Now I can say it's carried. Okay, again, Nezra, I look to you and say, where are we?
So that's done. Now we're going to move to bridge and culvert forecast, which is page 215. No surprise here. I mentioned that we are going to be spending approximately $5.7 million in the next 10 years on bridge and culvert. And we need to increase the reserve transfers. And we talked about it during budget, capital budget deliberation. Any question again on bridge and culvert? If not, I'll move to generator forecast. That's on page 217 to 218. Any question on that? If there is no question on that, we will move
Just-
to,
Just the reserve fund, Ezra, for that is how much again?
so by the end of 2024, we're projecting $90,000 surplus.
That initially, John, was thought to be a fund to replace the undersized generator at the Bewdley Arena. The existing GenSat was designed for the old building before renovations and expansions. And we started to put $10,000 a year in 2016, I think, to get it to the dollar value that's there. And quite frequently when we're in these discussions, I turn to Mark, and Mark and I, although we certainly had different positions than we have now, we're in discussions with the county and a potential agreement there to use that building in a different function than it presently is through our emergency management process. And they were willing to add dollars for that generator if and when we move forward. Whether that still exists remains to be seen, but it's something that we would still be wanting to pursue.
I still have the conversation, Ezra. I look at the actual figures of the year of these generators and it kind of puts your mind to be a little bit restless saying, if anything happens to these, where's that money gonna come from? Because we're talking a lot of money to replace these. We're not talking just 80,000. We're talking a lot more than that. In this day and age to buy a generator of that aspect.
I'm gonna turn to Lucas. Lucas, could you forward to all council members that very nice report, including the number of hours on our generators that you've sent to me previously?
These generators seem to be a hot topic around here. And yeah, they have, and I know a little bit, and Scott knows about the years. We did have a very detailed analysis done on all the generators that are listed. I want to say they all are average about 250 hours only on them. So there's very little hours. Obviously, the age of them are starting to have some maintenance and servicing, but I can definitely pass on those reports to all of council.
Saw the reports. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just a problem. The problem I have is with the age of them. Like you're saying, they start to have breakdowns, and next thing you know, if one does all of a sudden sees, then we're in a situation where something has to be done.
And I did for those $80,000. Those are quotes that I did get. I want to say this summer just to build the forecasting, but obviously, and 10 years from now, there's probably going to be increases. But I mean, those are somewhat today's costs.
I must smile and quickly add, John, they are Perkins diesels. I know what you're saying, but we do have a very strong maintenance program right now that I feel comfortable we'll be continuing with. And they are Perkins diesels with Stanford backup generators. The only one on there that really concerns me is that Harwood Fire Hall one. That's yeah. In a joking sort of way, you want to take this conversation elsewhere? So, and for the public, that's a friendly response. Anyway, that's one of our top items, as well as the small one in Bugley, the too small one in Bugley.
If there is no more question on generator forecast, we will move to parks facility forecast, and that's on page 220. Does anyone have any question on that? If not, we'll move to parks vehicle and equipment forecast. That's on page 222. Does anyone have any question on that?
I guess looking to Trevor, does 100,000 still buy a ice resurfacer?
That's current price. Yeah.
Okay.
When we're very fortunate right now that we have two fairly new ones, like one's a year old and one's 3 years old, but yeah, that it'll be higher than that come the 10 years when it's up for renewal. Tim Hortons.
Larry?
So Trevor, the John Deere tractor loader, you anticipate being 50,000, right? And the John Deere mower, which I assume is an attachment to that same John Deere.
No,
Or is
that's
that
a
separate?
that's a standalone mower, the out front deck.
Is that like a rider mower?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
like
It's
a-
an out front deck, one that we can put on a trailer and take around from park to park. The tractor loader it has a deck on it as well, but it's a larger machine that stays at the Baltimore Arena and has a loader on the front of it and attachments on the back for grooming the ball diamonds.
Okay, right. Have we considered electric in the future?
Considered, yes. Yet to see anything proven that works in the commercial field at this time. Starting to see some the companies are coming out with them, but yet to see anything that can last a full 8-hour day for cutting grass.
Yeah, that's the problem,
Yeah.
Interesting. Everybody keeps asking us when we're gonna get into electric vehicles, and I keep saying, well, until they can sustain themselves for longer than 4 hours, then
We actually looked at something as simple as weed eaters this year.
Yeah.
Because it's much lighter and easier for the students to handle, but you just can't get the time out of them.
and they take forever
Yeah.
to weed something. Thank you.
Nazrat?
Is there any question on this page? If not, that's the end of 2024 budget presentation for the township. Based on the motions that have been approved for operating budget, we are now at 5.7% increase. As if you take into consideration the assessment growth of 1.1%, we are at 4.6%.
Nazrat, could you stand just a little closer to the mic so that everybody got that, please? And I'm not necessarily limiting myself to the people in the room.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Based on the motions that have been approved by council today on operating budget, we are now at 5.6% tax levy increase, factoring in the assessment growth of 1.1%. The net levy increase for 2024 as of now is 4.6%.
Thank you. I'll ask any follow-up questions or comments. Mark?
I just have one question and the following CEO, I guess, dealing with the little garden out here that we have that's kind of blocked in where the flag poles are. Is there any consideration to do something with that? Like it's kind of doesn't look the best anymore. I mean, it's missing some blocks and so forth.
Yeah, we noticed that it suffered a bit of an injury.
Yes.
And it needs to be repaired as well as I think sometimes you get some of the flowers cover.
So is it in our budget somewhere to do that? Regular maintenance?
Fortunately, I believe it's more cosmetic than it was not like a unfortunate vehicle did.
Okay.
And not on one of ours, but we're cleaning it up. Fixing it up for
Great. Okay, thank you.
Larry, question?
Just while we're on the subject, could you possibly get the walkway fixed? Because it was fixed last year from the snow and ice, but it looked like hell all year. It was all full of weeds. It's not the kind of image I don't think we want to present. So if we can have the walkway going to the front door, looking good, cut well, no chunks of dirt and weeds, I'd appreciate it.
Nazrat, we obviously are all quite happy with the budget because we moved away from it immediately. So we're must be in wonderful shape. So I'm going to introduce the motion that's here. And that is that council receives report T 2023-27, being the 2024 draft operating and capital budget. Same motion for information. I was reading the water one, which we haven't got to yet, but anyway. Motion on the floor. Could I have a mover, please? Larry? Bruce, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Anyway, I should correct those numbers that I read inappropriately. It should be report 2023-26 for the general budget. The number I used of -27 is for water. My correction. Nazrat? Anita, I'm sure you're moving into microphone range. We shall move forward with the draft water budget. Please, when you ladies are ready.
To you, Mr. Mayor, staff is requesting that council receive 2024 draft operating and capital budget for water for information purpose. I'd like to move to Appendix A of the staff report, which is the draft water budget package. And I will pass the floor to our water manager, Anita Schoenlever, who will introduce the budget and talk about the accomplishment and priorities for 2024.
Thank you, Nasrat. Good afternoon, Mayor Jip, council, staff, and the water ratepayers. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for the opportunity to speak about our water department and our continued commitment to providing safe drinking water to our ratepayers. As an overview, Water Operations Department is responsible for the treatment and distribution of safe drinking water through compliance with all relevant Ontario legislation. Our department is committed to continuous improvement initiatives and preventative maintenance to enhance the operation of our drinking water systems. All of us in the water department and any staff within the township that support water department are highly dedicated to providing the safest drinking water, utilizing every precious dollar from the ratepayers in the most efficient way. As you can see in our budget presentation, we have had many successful projects completed in 2023, and we look forward to important initiatives in 2024. Being as it's very clearly laid out in the water budget, I won't go into deep detail unless anyone has any questions. But in conclusion, for the introduction, we are proud of our continued and careful administration of ratepayers' dollars for operations and finance to ensure every dollar is spent in the utmost efficiency and care. Staff truly contribute this in many ways by optimizing process, finding best price, sometimes not submitting call-ins or overtime, working on water initiatives on their own time, donating tools, and that's just to name a few examples. There are countless ways that our department goes over and above to stretch every precious dollar. With this, I would like to thank council, staff, and treasurer for this opportunity to speak to you about our drinking water systems. Pass it back to you, Nasrat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita.
If I can request everyone to move to page 9 of this package, please. If you can move to, if you can look at page table 2 of this on this page, base personnel is increasing by 10%, and that's because of COLA, step rate increase, benefit rate increase, CPP limit increase, as well as a lead hand conversion. And when we go through the pressure sheet, we will be speaking more on the lead hand conversion. Contribution to reserve is increasing by $57,000. That's because now we are increasing the rate and we're able to transfer more fund to water capital reserve. Their other expenditure is increasing by approximately $13,000 for various reasons, and we'll go through that in detail when we go through the pressure sheet. Other revenue, as you can see, is increasing by 15%, and that's as per the rate approved by council for 2024. In terms of the external pressure, they're seeing an increase of approximately $10,000 related because of insurance. Any question on this page before we get into the pressure sheet with detail? If I can request everyone to move to page 10 of this package. As I've said, personnel is increasing by approximately $31,000. That's due to COLA, step rate increase, benefit rate increase, and also a conversion of lead hand person. After I'm done with this page, I'm actually going to pass the floor to Anita, who will speak more on the lead hand conversion. Transfer to water reserve, it's flatlined. We're not increasing it. So if you can recall, Water Department borrowed money from Township's reserve in order to pay for certain expenditures. This is at $70,000 transferred to that to pay back the debt. We're requesting to transfer $10,000. Again, there is no increase, but because it's water, I wanted to bring these to council's attention in terms of how much money we transfer to various reserves for water, where we normally transfer $10,000 to water rate study reserve, no change from previous years. We're also going to be transferring additional, this is an increase of approximately $52,000 to water capital reserve. The reserve will be used to pay for future water capital projects. I do have to bring this to council's attention. When we did the rate study, it was estimated or projected that by the end of 2024, we will be able to, or in 2024, we will be transferring $114,000 to water capital reserve, but based on the information we have, we are going to be transferring $82,000 to the water reserve. The question might be, why are we transferring less than what we projected? When we projected this amount, it was based on the assumption that CPI is 2%. Interest rate will be around 2%. As you all know, CPI has been significantly higher than that. Interest rate is significantly higher than that. As a result, we're not able to transfer what we projected, but we're doing our absolute best, as Anita has mentioned. Transfer to Buttersfield Capital Reserve is approximately $12,000, which is an increase of approximately $48,000. We are collecting capital charges from the customers there. However, you also know that there was a major project in 2023 for which we had to borrow money. So what we are doing, we're getting the revenue capital charges from the customers, but we're making sure principal and interest are paid first before we transfer the fund to the reserve. And that was mentioned to council during 2023 budget deliberation too. Capital loan and interest payment is going to be remaining around the same, $79,200 for 2024. Any question on this product? Before I pass the floor to Anita again to talk about the lead hand conversion.
Doesn't seem that we have questions.
Okay, I would like to pass the floor to Anita, who will speak to the lead hand conversion.
Thank you, Nasrat. Mayor Jip and council. We propose that we take an existing water operator and shift them up to a lead hand role. This is not a new staff ask, but an enhancement to our current role of a water operator. At this current time, the water department lacks continuity in operations and capital works. The lead hand will be the steady hand at the helm to oversee day-to-day operations and particularly capital projects as they unfold. And we are in a rather intensive time at this juncture for capital. We're doing more capital than we have in recent times, and we're seeing a lot of benefits from it. In order to see those projects through, a lead hand is critical. So we are having to clean up some missed opportunities where there was lack of continuity. And there have been different managers over the years, and that didn't help either. So by having consistent staff looking at all the projects, it really helps with continuity, with efficiency, finding those the hidden gems that allow us to be more efficient. In addition to the water department having a lead hand, that person would be able to train and mentor any new water operator that comes into our fold, as we do have imminent retirements coming our way. Another really key aspect of the lead hand is that that person would be the alternate drinking water quality management system rep. Currently, I'm the only person that's in charge of BWQMS, and we should have an alternate. Are there any questions?
Mark?
I know and I support the position you're asking, but as long as that person is able to take your position when you're away on holidays, that type of thing, is that what's going to happen with this person?
Yes, that is the intent, to train them on AWQI, reporting to the ministry and health unit, and carry on with any QMS initiatives, to follow through on any capital that's in progress at that time. Thanks for thinking of it. I appreciate it. But yes, that's the full intent of this person, is to really cover off my absences.
And follow-up question, if I may, hourly, like hours of at the plant and so forth, is that going to increase for this person from what it is now?
No, they will not increase,
So you-
because it's again,
So you're not going to hurt the roads staff by having this person any more, like, as far as time goes.
correct.
Okay.
There will be no impact on roads.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? John?
Will there be any budgetary increases to the water, having this extra person?
If I may, Nazrat, it's not an extra person. It's really moving one of the 4 operators up into the lead hand. And the difference is $8,000 in a full budget year.
So there is an impact to the budget for $8,000. So there's a budget to the water users.
Correct. The lead hand role would be paid $2 extra per hour.
Okay, thank you.
So if I can,
Larry?
so Anita, this is really your succession planning, as you move along, with retirements and such. This succession planning is going to be part of this, new lead hand, right? Is that correct? Not just for you to go on holidays, but as we go along, somebody who's going to be retiring, this person will be able to oversee the new person coming in to replace that person. Right, okay.
That is correct.
Yeah, good.
Mark?
I think it's been brought up at our coordinator meetings, and it was quite a concern that if Anita went even out partying one night and she well, I mean, let's face it, I mean, you don't even have to party, I mean, you have a drink or two, I mean,
Mark, she probably just drinks water when she goes out.
Water with her. After today, she might drink a lot more, who knows, but I just, there was that concern that, that she really, when she's away, she's not really away. She's always got to be here or responsible for here. So now at least we have that second person that she can rely on.
We have had staff that doesn't sit terribly far away from the water department office that has gone away and come back injured. So it's a very real component that we may need a backup person on a minute's notice. And I think the lead hand could do that, as well as the other things that have been in the print part of this presentation. Any further questions? Nazrat, I believe it comes back to you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, may I request everyone to move to page 11, please? So for training, we're requesting an increase of $500 to align with actual. Mileage and fuel, we're requesting an increase of $1,000 due to increase in gas price, as well as more usage of water vehicle by on-call operators. Lab supplies, we're requesting to increase that by $300 aligned with actual. Telephone, an increase of $200 aligned with actual. Dispatch services, an increase of $250 aligned with actual and contingency. Courier and postage, an increase of $700 aligned with actual. Contracted out, an increase of $1,000, that's CPI. Vehicle repair, an increase of $2,000 aligned with actual and contingency. Consultant general, an increase of $1,000 for the uncommitted reserves capacity study. And water meter, we're requesting an increase of $3,500. This is for new connection, and we actually sell it, so it does not have any impact to the rate, simply because we are going to generate $3,000. We are going to purchase water meter for $3,000 and we're $3,500, and we're going to sell it for $3,500. This is not part of the water meter replacement that we do for on a yearly basis. Chemical supplies, we are requesting an increase of $100 aligned with average actual. Chemical, we're requesting an increase of $500 aligned with actual. Hydro, we're requesting an increase of $1,000 aligned with projected actual. Any question on page 11?
I do, if I'm understanding the print in front of me accurately, under incremental changes, should our vertical numbers not add up to the total expenditure variance at the bottom line? I'm looking at that 101. Is it in the wrong column?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, that's 101. It's if you add up all the incremental changes on page 11 as well as page 10, it will add up to that amount.
Okay, that makes sense. I need to go back to that page 10 to get my math close. Thank you. John, question?
The vehicle repairs, $4,000, is that because of the age of the vehicle? We're putting it up a little bit.
Councillor Davison, that is actually more due to the fact that we have acquired the fire command vehicle from the fire department. And it is just part of its maintenance as well as maintenance for the ambulance.
Very good, thank you.
Is there any question on that page? If not, if I can request everyone to move to page 12 of this package. The revenue is increasing for Buttersfield's cost recovery, water billing, and capital cost recovery is increasing by 15% as per the rate approved by council for 2024. I do have to remind everyone that in 2025, the rate increase is going to be 5%, not 15% anymore. In terms of insurance, it's increasing by $10,000, and that takes the water budget to a conclusion for operating. Any question on that page? If not, I'd like to take everyone to page 16, which is the water capital budget. We're requesting two capital projects for 2024. One is the rehab of Camborne jockey pump, and the second one is water meter upgrade. I'm actually going to pass the floor to Anita again to go over these two projects.
Thank you, Nazra. Mayor and council. Camborne jockey pump is the pump that runs majority of the time. And it was new in 2005, and it is due for rehabilitation. This is predictive and preventative maintenance that we're doing now so that we don't have a failure. Any questions on the jockey pump? We are always looking. For the next item, as we've been doing for several years, it's the water meter replacement program, just a continuation and requesting an amount of $20,000, which would allow us to replace approximately, we'll say 20 to 25 meters over the course of the year. And if I may add, we did replace 14 meters this year with new RFs, plus we have 14 new homes on the system in Creighton Heights, 13 of which are from Deerfield, and one recent connection for a home whose well completely failed.
Is there any question on water capital budget? If not, if I can ask everyone to move to page 23 of the package. That's just a reserve table and also debt information. You can see that water reserves are in surplus position, except for two. One is the amount that water borrowed from the township in order, and it's going to be paid on a yearly basis. And the second one is the unfunded capital for Kennedy Road. Is there any question on this page? The forecast for water is on page 24 and 25 of this package. I do have to mention that we're working on the master plan for water. It is possible that the forecast will be shifted a little bit based on the master plan result. So I wanted to bring that to your attention in the sense that you will see 2023 to 2031 to 2033. It's pretty light. It's just we're waiting for the result from master plan and we will update it based on that. Is there any question on water capital forecast? If not, Mr. Mayor, that ends my presentation for today.
Quickly bounce to our agenda, item 8.3, the draft operating and capital budget water. The prepared motion is that council receives report T2023-27 for the 2024 draft operating and capital budget water as information. Can I have a mover, please? Bruce, seconder, Larry, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Item 9.1, our confirmatory bylaw, bylaw 2023-68 being a bylaw to adopt the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 14th day of December 2023 and to authorize its execution be given first, second, and third reading and finally pass this 14th day of December 23. Moved by John, seconded by Bruce. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Mark, it is recommended Council Corporation Township of Halifax for the special council meeting held on December 14th, 2023 be adjourned at 3:51. Moved by Mark, seconded by John. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.